Rome. For more than 2,000 years, the history of the Western world has circled back to a single city. It conquered continents, shaped law, redefined power, and left an inheritance so deep that it still structures our lives today. But Rome was never meant to exist. At its beginning, it was not a kingdom, not a civilization, not even a city. Just a fragile settlement on a muddy riverbank, surrounded by stronger, richer, and older neighbors. By every logic of ancient survival, Rome should have disappeared. And yet, it did not. This is the story of how it endured. To understand Rome, we must begin long before Rome existed. Around 1200 BC, the Mediterranean world entered a period of catastrophic collapse. The Great Bronze Age civilizations, once connected by trade, diplomacy, and shared technologies, began to unravel. As an age faded, the Mycenaean palaces burned, the Hittite Empire collapsed, writing was forgotten, and cities fell into silence. This was not a single invasion. It was systemic failure. While the eastern Mediterranean fractured, Italy endured. The reason was the difference in its geography. The Alps shielded it from mass invasions. The Apennine Mountains divided regions, but did not isolate them. Fertile plains allowed agriculture to recover. Coastlines enabled trade without total exposure. Italy was not the richest land, but it was resilient. At its heart flowed the Tiber River, navigable, defensible, and connected to both inland routes and the sea. Control the Tiber, and you touched the center of the peninsula. Italy was not empty, it was a mosaic of peoples. The Latins, farming the plains of Latium. The Sabines, mountain pastoralists hardened by terrain. And to the north, the Etruscans. The Etruscans were unlike anyone else in Italy. They built cities with stone walls, drained swamps, mined metals, traded across the Mediterranean. Their religion focused on signs, omens, and fate, beliefs Rome would later absorb deeply. From the south came the Greeks. Beginning in the 8th century BC, Greek settlers founded colonies along Italy's coast, a region later called Magna Graecia. They brought writing, architecture, political thought, myth. Rome would learn from Greece, even as it conquered Greek lands centuries later. Near a shallow crossing of the Tiber, several villages began to cluster. The location was ideal. Inland from pirate raids, close to salt routes, elevated for defense, connected for trade. It was not the most beautiful place, but it was the most practical. Rome was born not from glory, but from geography. Legend tells of Romulus and Remus, a tale of divine ancestry, abandoned twins, and a city born from fate. Archaeology tells of huts. On the Palatine Hill, remains of 8th century BC dwellings have been found, post holes, hearths, pottery. Rome was not founded in a day. It fused slowly. Villages became neighborhoods, paths became roads, markets became the forum. Rome's story did not begin with written records. It began with legend, and like every powerful legend, it revealed how the Romans saw themselves, who they were, and what they chose to believe in. According to tradition, Rome was founded by the twin brothers Romulus and Remus. Their mother, Rhea Silvia, had been forcibly devoted to priesthood so that she would bear no children. When she gave birth, the king of the time ordered the infants to be killed. But they survived. The twins were set adrift on the Tiber River, nursed by a she-wolf, and later raised by a shepherd. When they grew older, they decided to found a new city. But when it came to power, they could not agree. Voices rose, anger grew, the dispute ended in murder. Romulus killed Remus. Rome's first lesson was brutal, its borders would be defended with blood. Beneath the legend, there is evidence. Archaeology confirms a settlement on the Palatine Hill dating to the mid-8th century BC. Huts, hearths, burial grounds. Rome's foundation myth does not match historical reality in its details, but it does align in time. The city did not appear all at once. It took shape slowly. Not as tyrants, but as founders of institutions. Romulus established the Senate and the army. Numa Pompilius shaped religion and law, binding the city together through ritual. Tullus Hostilius expanded Rome through war. Ancus Marcius built Rome's first port and its first bridge. Each king added a piece to the structure. Each prepared Rome for permanence. Then Rome changed. Etruscan kings came to power. They brought engineering, urban planning, and spectacle. Roads were laid. Drainage systems were built. Temples rose. Rome became a city. The Cloaca Maxima drained the Forum. Public space was born. Power was now on display. King Servius Tullius reorganized Rome from the ground up. Citizens were classified according to wealth. Voting power was tied to class. Military service was linked to property. Rome became orderly, but unequal. Still, it worked. The city could now mobilize for war quickly. The final king, Tarquinius Superbus, ruled by fear. He sidelined the Senate, ruled through force, ignored tradition. Then came the crime. His son assaulted Lucretia, a noblewoman. She revealed the act and took her own life. Rome revolted. In 509 BC, Rome expelled its kings. The monarchy came to an end. No single man would rule alone anymore. Rome became a republic. Power was shared, it was limited, and it was constantly debated. A new experiment in government had begun. The Roman Republic was not born from idealism. It was born from fear. Fear of kings, fear of the dangers of absolute power, fear of the authority of an unchecked single individual. For this reason, the institutions of the Republic were designed with one purpose: to prevent tyranny. Power was shared, offices were limited, and in Rome, no one would rule alone anymore. At the top stood two consuls, elected annually. Each could veto the other. Each commanded armies. Neither could rule alone. Behind them stood the Senate, not a legislature, but Rome's memory. It guided foreign policy, finance, and tradition. Below them were the citizen assemblies, where Romans voted, but not equally. Wealth determined influence. The Republic favored the elites. The plebeians fought Rome's wars and paid its taxes, but they had no voice in government. So they revolted, not with weapons, by withdrawing. In 494 BCE, they left the city and refused to fight. Rome was left defenseless. In the end, compromise became unavoidable. The plebeians finally gained their own representatives. These representatives were called tribunes of the people. They had one clear task: to protect the people. When an unfair decision was made, they had the right to say no. They could stop it. For this reason, they were untouchable. Harming a tribune was considered treason against Rome. Then came the 12 Tables. For the first time, the law was written down and displayed publicly. Justice could no longer hide behind tradition or arbitrary interpretation. With internal balance achieved, Rome expanded. The Latin War tested Rome's leadership. Rome conquered, but did not destroy. Rome absorbed defeated cities. Some gained full citizenship, others partial rights. This system turned enemies into allies. The Samnites were among Rome's most dangerous rivals in Italy. They were accustomed to fighting in the mountains, tough and disciplined. At the Caudine Forks, Rome suffered a humiliating defeat. Its army was trapped, forced to surrender without a battle. But Rome did not forget. It changed its tactics, reorganized its army, built roads, and returned stronger than before. War reshaped the Roman army. In this process, the Manipular legion emerged, more flexible, more adaptable, and more effective. The Roman army was made up of citizen soldiers. Discipline was unquestioned. Rome learned faster than its enemies and applied those lessons on the battlefield. By the early 3rd century BCE, Rome now dominated Italy. It achieved this not by destruction, but through integration. Roads bound the land together. Colonies secured loyalty. Rome was no longer just a city, it was a functioning system. And the next objective was clear: the Mediterranean. Two great powers dominated the western Mediterranean. Rome controlled the land. Carthage ruled the sea. Carthage was older than Rome. For centuries, it had been at the center of Mediterranean trade. It was wealthier and far more experienced at sea. Its power rested on commerce, large war fleets, and mercenary armies. Rome, by contrast, had no navy, no maritime tradition, no experience in naval warfare. Yet the two powers shared the same world. And in that world, conflict was inevitable. The First Punic War began in 264 BCE, over Sicily. Captured Carthaginian ships were studied, copied piece by piece, and entire fleets were built from scratch. Rome pulled naval warfare into terrain it understood. Instead of ship-to-ship maneuvering, it turned sea battles into land combat, using the boarding bridge known as the Corvus. The war lasted 23 years. In the end, Carthage surrendered, and Rome gained its first overseas province. Carthage did not forget its defeat. In 218 BCE, Hannibal Barca launched a bold campaign. He set out from Spain, led his army across the Alps, with war elephants. For Rome, this was unthinkable. Hannibal defeated Roman armies at Trebia, at Lake Trasimene, and at Cannae, one after another. But the true blow came at Cannae. In a single day, Rome lost more than 50,000 soldiers. This was not just a defeat, it was annihilation. After Cannae, many states would have surrendered. Rome did not. The Senate rejected peace. New legions were raised, even slaves were pressed into service. Rome chose resilience, not glory. And strategy changed. The goal now was to delay Hannibal, to wear him down, and to buy time. Known as the delayer, Fabius Maximus did not confront Hannibal directly. He followed him step by step, cut his supply lines, and wore him down over time. Hannibal won battles, but he could not win the war. Rome, in the process, learned its hardest lesson: patience. Rome found its solution in Commander Scipio. First, he struck Carthage's bases in Spain. Then, he carried the war into Africa. This move forced Hannibal to return. In 202 BCE, at Zama, the Roman commander Scipio defeated Hannibal. And the war came to an end. Carthage survived, but it was deeply humiliated. 50 years passed. Rome returned. In 146 BCE, Carthage was completely destroyed. The city was burned, its people were enslaved, and Rome became the sole power of the Western Mediterranean. Rome had won, but victory changed everything. With conquest, wealth flowed in, but it was not shared equally. Slave labor replaced free citizens. Power slowly centralized. Rome's victories reshaped society from top to bottom. Wealth poured in from conquered lands. Millions of slaves became the foundation of labor. Small farmers could not survive. They lost their land. The city filled with the displaced poor. In the countryside, vast estates rose. The Republic was now rich, but unstable, and that imbalance was beginning to tear it apart from within. The first to act were the Gracchus brothers. Tiberius Gracchus, in 133 BCE, proposed land reform. He bypassed the Senate. He appealed directly to the people. And he paid the price. He was killed. About 10 years later, his brother Gaius Gracchus tried again. He expanded land reforms, introduced grain laws, and sought to extend citizenship. He did not survive either. He was hunted down and killed. By then, in Rome, political murder had become routine. A new type of general emerged, Gaius Marius. He recruited the landless poor into the army. He paid them wages. He promised them land. The army became professional, but there was a cost. Soldiers' loyalty shifted away from the state and toward their commanders. Rome had crossed another line. The rivalry between Marius and his opponent, the Senate-backed general Sulla, drove the Republic toward disaster. In 88 BCE, Sulla marched on Rome. For the first time in history, a Roman army attacked Rome itself. Sulla ruled through fear. He issued proscription lists, seized property, ordered his enemies killed. The Republic survived, but it was now deeply wounded. Even the slaves rose up. In 73 BCE, Spartacus launched a major revolt. Rome panicked. The uprising was crushed, but one crucial truth remained. This rebellion exposed the deep instability within the Republic. And in Rome, order was maintained not through voluntary loyalty, but through force. Power gathered in the hands of three men: Caesar, Pompey, Crassus. It was called the First Triumvirate, not written into law, yet it ruled Rome. The balance was fragile, and it did not last. Caesar conquered Gaul. Victory followed. Power began to concentrate in a single hand. The Senate pushed back. It ordered him to disband his army. Caesar did not respond. He crossed the Rubicon, and that was a step with no return. Civil war began. Caesar defeated Pompey. Then came the inevitable. He was declared dictator for life. Rome fell silent, but fear returned, because Rome never forgot its kings. In 44 BCE, senators killed Caesar. They believed they were saviors. But in truth, they did not kill the Republic. They killed its last hope. Civil war returned. Caesar's heir, Octavian, outmaneuvered his rivals. In 27 BCE, he took the title Augustus. When Octavian took the name Augustus, Rome was no longer a republic. It had quietly become an empire. Augustus did not call himself king. He understood Rome's deep fear of monarchy. Instead, he became princeps, the first citizen. The Senate continued to meet. Elections were held. Laws were passed. But the reality was clear. All power flowed from a single man. Rome had replaced chaos with control. Under Augustus and his successors, Rome entered the age of Pax Romana. For nearly 200 years, major wars came to an end. Roads expanded, trade flourished, cities grew. The empire stretched from Britain to Syria. Peace became Rome's greatest achievement. The empire stretched from Britain to Syria. For most Romans, empire meant everyday life. Markets, baths, festivals. The city of Rome reached a population of over 1 million. Grain distributions fed the poor. Games distracted the crowds. Bread and circuses kept order. Rome ruled not only through armies, but through law. Roman law defined property, contracts, and citizenship. Roads linked the provinces. Governors enforced order. The empire worked because it was organized. Rome tolerated many gods, but Christianity was different. It rejected the imperial cult. It recognized no class divisions. Persecutions followed, but the faith endured. And by the 4th century, Christianity was shaping the empire itself. From the outside, Rome seemed eternal. But beneath the surface, cracks were spreading. Struggles for the throne, economic pressures, threats along the borders. Peace had only concealed the fragility. The empire had grown too large, too vast to govern with ease, too complex to reform quickly. Rome was at its peak, but it did not know it. The illusion of continuity shattered in the 3rd century. Between 235 and 284, Rome nearly collapsed. Emperors changed within months. Armies proclaimed their own rulers. Plague spread. Inflation devastated the economy. The borders unraveled under constant attacks. At one point, the empire split into 3 rival states. Rome survived, but only just. Salvation came through control. Emperor Diocletian implemented radical reforms. Power was divided among 4 rulers, the tetrarchy. Prices were fixed. Professions became hereditary. The emperor became distant and absolute. Rome regained stability. Freedom was sacrificed. One man reunited the empire, Constantine. He legalized Christianity. He founded Constantinople. He shifted Rome's center eastward. The empire was changed forever. Rome was no longer just a city. It was an idea. In 378, the Roman army confronted the Visigoths near Adrianople. The outcome was catastrophic. Emperor Valens was killed. 2/3 of the army were destroyed. Rome could no longer control migrations by force. In 382, the Goths were settled within imperial territory. Rome had crossed a point of no return. The Western Empire slowly unraveled. Weak emperors, barbarian generals, empty treasuries. In 410, Rome was sacked. In 455, it was sacked again. In 476, a Germanic commander deposed the last Western emperor. No one resisted. The Western Roman Empire came to an end. But Rome did not vanish. The Eastern Roman Empire, Byzantium, endured. It preserved Roman law, administration, and identity. For nearly 1,000 years, Constantinople stood firm. Until 1453. In 1453, Ottoman cannons shattered the ancient walls. Emperor Constantine XI was killed defending the city. The last Roman emperor fell in battle. Rome ended where it began, in blood and resistance. Rome did not die. It became law. It became language. It became faith. It became architecture. It became governance. Its empire fell, but its ideas conquered time. Every road, every court, every city still echoes Rome. This was not the fall of a city. This was the transformation of civilization. If Rome's story doesn't end here, then this journey isn't over either. Follow the channel for what comes next.